Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you here to the 10th race of the season for the G-Force Grand National Series as we continue on our second venue of the back-to-back short track stops to finish out the season. Tonight, we are at the Iowa Speedway. 7/8 of a mile, the Smartway Remodeling 150. It's qualifying about to be underway. I'm Seth Cole alongside Samuel Dyer. And Sam, from USA International last week to Iowa here tonight, similarities or huge differences for the drivers?
I think the biggest similarity is trying to find that grip off the corner. It's going to be one of the biggest things for these drivers is trying to compose themselves to not overturn and try to make sure they get on the throttle a little bit later than what they want to. But Iowa is so different compared to USA just due to the fact that these drivers actually have multiple lanes to work with. It's going to most likely be a lot of side-by-side racing we're going to be seeing tonight. But I think as the longer run goes on, if we stay green, we're going to be seeing a lot of these drivers spreading out. And it's going to be interesting to see who of our top four contenders is really going to be pulling ahead and trying to win tonight's race.
Might be a far stretch, but kind of reminds me the way that these drivers traverse around the track, the banking that they have to work with in the corners, almost kind of as if someone took and shrunk down Auto Club just the least little bit.
Yeah, shrinking down Auto Club, I would say it's more of a shrunk down Kentucky of all races in my point of view, but it's such a unique course with how small Iowa is. It's exciting to see all the different lanes that can be run here. I'm interested to see if any drivers early on are going to be trying to work into that third groove to see if they can put any rubber up there. So later on in this race, it's 150 laps. What could be made in that third lane?
Drivers are currently being told when they'll go out to start off this qualifying session. As we're waiting for this first driver to head out, let's talk about points, because, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about nearly a triple-digit advantage that Gerald Campbell had over John Whitendorf. We come into tonight's race, Whitendorf is now the new points leader, 5 points over Gerald Campbell, so definitely the sands of time have shifted.
Yeah, and honestly, 5 points is nothing with this point system that's going to be going on. During qualifying, if you get first place in qualifying, you get 2 bonus points. And then if you lead a lap, 5 bonus points. Most laps, another 5 bonus points. And just the older point system allows the fact of really these drivers, they're neck and neck. Might look huge with a 5-point lead in the current point system that drivers run, but in the past point system, this is going to be fun to watch for these last couple of races.
All right, so keeping that current point system in mind, after tonight, we've got only 2 more races till the championship is decided. If we look just behind the top 2, we've got 112 points back, Hank Steinmiller. 4th place is Jake Houndshell, 133 points back. I would assume that they are still mathematically in the hunt, but let's say either one of them have a bad night here tonight. Is there a possibility to still be able to mount a comeback with 2 races left?
Yeah, I think all drivers in our front 4 still have a possible mathematical chance at the moment. The drivers that still have a mathematical chance but are so far back that I think it just might be a little bit too far out of reach. That's got to be 5th and 6th points of Blaine Atkin as well as Jeff Green.
Blaine Atkin, if we remember back to the very first race of the season at Nashville, had that spin out of the final corner, and who went on to win that race but Jacob Putman? Well, he's making his second start of the season here tonight, so our Nashville winner back in the field. He looked like he had some pretty good speed, but the one thing I'm kind of wondering about is, he only spent 1 race getting used to the rest of these drivers and their style. He had some other drivers that were a little bit faster than him on the board, so how do we think he's going to perform here in his bid for going 2 for 2?
Yeah, this is pretty similar of how Putman had to run back at Nashville. He was the middle of the tier, a little bit higher, around the top 10 driver all race long in Nashville, and then came back and kind of snuck away with that win with Blaine Atkin's mishap coming to the white flag. But I think doing the same exact strategy of running in the middle, just trying to wait this race out, it's the best option for this one machine.
Last week, John Whitendorf not only took away the points lead for the first time this season, but got his first trip to victory lane. We've seen in the last few weeks, drivers like Whitendorf, Shane Tyrion, Beau Brady, all go to victory lane for the first time. A couple of names that were up there near the top of the board in practice that I'm looking at that might be fitting into the category of maybe getting their first win of the season. I'm looking at that 63 of Hank Steinmiller, the 16 of Anthony Grenary, and the 88 of Kyle Johnson.
Yeah, I think Kyle Johnson probably might be the biggest bubble marked for a lot of these drivers. If I can't believe he hasn't won yet. Kyle Johnson's been on the same boat of Beau Brady of trying a different strategy compared to everyone else. So he'll be usually pitting a little bit earlier than everyone else, trying to get a little bit of an advantage later on in the race compared to the rest of the field. But it's been Beau Brady that's been sneaking out this 88 machine. And also Kyle Johnson's been having issues with qualifying at times. And then if he qualifies well, he's being caught up in a lot of wrecks or later on in the race.
150 laps will be run here tonight, day to night conditions. Again, we keep talking about this, but it's very important, especially when you start getting to the short tracks. No fast repairs available for these drivers and 3 sets of tires. So are drivers here thinking of maybe having 2 pit stops in 50-lap intervals and then saving that last set for a late race caution? Or do you think that some drivers might think about going a full 75 laps on 1 set of tires?
I think it kind of matters on how the drivers are feeling out this race. It feels like it's going to be going green all the way through from start to finish. I think we might be seeing some drivers feeling like, hey, let's try the pit on lap 50 and then on lap 100. But if we're going to be seeing a lot of cautions coming out, I'm expecting a lot of our front runners, probably about 11 to probably 12 drivers, trying to stay out a little bit past that halfway marker, maybe out to lap 80 or 85 until they're going to be putting themselves in a situation to come into pit road, as well as saving a set of tires just in case a late caution comes out.
I think we're going to see a plethora of different strategies here tonight in this one for 2 reasons. Number one, we're coming down to the end of the season, so everybody that hasn't won a race yet, they still want to try and find victory lane. And the second reason, we've already kind of touched on that earlier on, the fact that right now it's kind of looking like it's a 4-horse race for the championship. So, when you know that you don't really have a championship on the line, you're willing to take risks and try a strategy outside of the box to see if maybe it'll work out for you to get to victory lane.
Yeah, I mean, that's what won Beau Brady. I think Beau Brady, probably one of the biggest out-of-box winners that we saw back at Phoenix, where he made such a bold choice, and it took him about 3 weeks of making the choice of pitting early that then got him in the situations for possibly winning almost 4 races in a row, but only getting one, like I said, at Phoenix. So some drivers are going to have to do that. I think Kyle Johnson, probably the biggest contender of drivers that could try something different and could be up front. I think Anthony Grenary, he's got to be another driver in my mind that could possibly try something different. He's shown that he's got pace on the early runs, but he's got to learn how to save those tires for later on in the race.
Still waiting here for our first driver to go out. Another thing that I'm noticing here as well, still a pretty good field size. We get down closer to the end of the season as well. Other drivers will move on to other leagues that start up or something, a league that they may be still in the hunt for a championship over there. And usually we end up seeing the field size really, really dwindle down to a minuscule number. But 23 drivers here with still 3 races left to go. Definitely a pretty good field size. And makes me wonder, we had quite a number of cautions in last week's race at USA. We may not see that many yellows here tonight.
I want to say that we won't, but I don't know. The looseness sensation that these drivers are going to be feeling off of corner number 2, especially out of 4. I'm expecting there to be at least possibly 5 cautions, maybe even more than that into this race. And we joke about it off broadcast, but I think even now there are certain drivers that we've been seeing just have poor luck week after week of being involved in a wreck or being caught up in self-spinning. So I think the possibility of at least 3 to 5 cautions is there for a minimum, but cautions most likely are going to be seen.
Gonna have to wait and see about that one. As brief delay here. I think right now what might be going on is there might be a driver's briefing that's taking place before they actually have the drivers go out there onto the racetrack to set down their qualifying lap. So let's talk about qualifying here, because I was watching these drivers, observing them in practice. Not very many drivers were actually willing to go down there right to the inside line. I think more so for the reason they just couldn't hold it down there, that looseness off the corner that you talk about. But we're starting to see the shadows creep in just a little bit, especially over in the entrance to turn 1 and also on the front straightaway. So does that play a little bit more of a factor in these drivers having a little bit more courage to try and pin it down to the inside for their Q lap?
I think for the Q lap, a lot of these drivers most likely are going to be running about a half groove off of that white line and expecting them to continue to do that. Some of these drivers that are going to be last to qualify are fastest during practice. We've seen it some weeks prior of drivers trying to really just gun it and say, hey, I was fastest during practice. Watch what I can do. I can be more aggressive than what you other drivers have been doing. And sometimes they overstep their comfort zones and find themselves wrecking out of these Q times. And we'll see who really feels the most confident and comfortable. But it's looking like drivers are getting lined up, and the 83 of David White should be our first driver out on track.
Well, indeed, David White made his debut last week at USA International and survived to finish on the lead lap and finish with a top 15, finishing in the 15th position. And he'll head out onto the racetrack here to kind of set the precedent here for what these drivers will be trying to beat and trying to start on the pole here tonight at Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, David White, new to iRacing in a way, and it seems like his strategy each week needs to be just try to get better each lap. It's not always trying to get a win, but certainly last week there has to be a confidence level that raised, knowing, hey, I stayed on the lead lap. I might not have been the fastest guy, but at least I kept my car in one shape and one piece at least, and was able to finish out the race.
And, for a driver like David White that's just starting out here as well, as you said, making those starts is important because running behind another driver, you may pick up on their racing style. It may actually help you to get faster and better.
Yeah, and also just being in session, seeing drivers that are quick, seeing what times they can put down. And it looks like the first lap is going to be a 25.005 here for David White. Not a very good time for this 83 machine, but I don't think that he was looking for a fast lap, just trying to get around here cleanly.
And that's another thing too, because we know that if you end up spinning out and hitting the wall or something, more than likely that's going to throw away your lap time. So as long as you can just keep it on the racing surface and keep it straight, who knows? You may benefit from that and start up inside the top 15 again as James Goshen going to come around here, and he is now on the clock, I do believe. Oh no, I think he just actually ran his lap time, 24.2 for the 85.
Yeah, it's about to be rapid fire qualifying here. We've already got two drivers down. It's going to be Jason Houndshell now of the 00 out on track coming out of 2.
Yeah, Jason Houndshell looked like he was going to have a good run last week at USA International. Had a great qualifying effort, but the race did not go the way he planned, and trying to bounce back from that here is a little loose there off of turn 4. He's going to hit the line with a 24.04 or 405, I should say. And right now, scored second on the board is now the 19 of Randy Koking.
Yeah, Randy Koking on this 19 machine. I think his goal has to be finish out this race. It's not been the best season for this 19 machine. Been caught up in a lot of wrecks and looking loose and extremely loose at 2. Somehow able to save that 19 machine and just taking it slow, just trying to put down a lap time.
18th in points, and that's 9 starts coming to this race for Randy Koking, and a lot of other drivers ahead of him in points that have less starts than that, as he is going to cross the line with a 25.315. That is currently 4th of the 4 drivers. Certainly not what he was looking for, and we know for certain that near moment off of turn 2 played a huge part into that.
Yeah, that moment off of 2, I mean, you could see it was starting to happen. There was a little bit of a shuffle going on with that 19 machine in the middle of 1 and 2, and it just kept on carrying forward, never really got onto his pace. It's going to be Peyton Hamlet, though, in the 10 machine, out on track, going to be starting the warm-up time. But Hamlet, one of those drivers that has shown speed at moments to be at least a top 15 driver, and then the second half of the race is just fall off for this 10 machine.
Exactly. Can't close out the deal. Definitely been the case for this 10 machine, looking to make his 6th start of the season. And I just noticed right there, boy, there's a lot of front downforce as far as the braking is concerned. I mean, the whole front end of that car, it almost the front valance almost went into the racing surface.
Yeah, you got to wonder if these drivers are getting a little bit out of shape, and extremely out of shape. There was going to be Peyton Hamlet able to hold on. Now top of the board, even with that wicked loose exit out of 4.
Boy, that surprises me, because I thought that coming off of 4 there, that was going to scrub off so much speed, but maybe it was the way he attacked turn 1. Who knows? Is Shane Lake now in the number 81, that AEW Chevrolet on the clock?
Yeah, I mean, Shane Lake publicly has just been kind of frustrated, wanting better weeks and better performances and hoping to be having a clean race. It's coming across the line. This 81 machine looks like it's going to be possibly a 3rd place position. Yes, 3rd place for the 81 machine with a 24.272.
Good off of turn 4. It's almost making me wonder if maybe turn 1, how you attack turn 1, might be the place where drivers are going to make up their time. Is Ernest King in the number 24 machine now out on the track. Ernest King coming into this race currently 24th in points, looking to make his 9th start of the year.
Yeah, Ernest King, it's 24 machine. He's going to be running that lane higher than what the yellow line is, and looks clean for now. A little bit of a shake on the back end, but still a solid time. Should be good for 4th place.
24.349 for the number 24 machine. And now here comes Peyton Hill. And, we've sung the praises of Peyton Hill week after week, but he always seems to keep surprising us. One of those guys that seems to remain up inside the top 10 every week. Got a little loose through the center of 1 and 2 there, but kept the nose straight off the corner.
Yeah, Peyton Hill and Peyton Hamlet came into this series at the same time, and we weren't sure what we were going to get. Both drivers have been quick, but it's been Hill, like you said. He's been the more consistent driver and continues with the consistency, top of the board with a 24.023.
We're yet to see a driver hit the sub-24s, and as we continue to work our way further up towards the top of the leaderboard from practice, I think we may end up hitting some high 23s perhaps here, as AJ Demarco in the number 5 machine now out there. And we went down a list of drivers coming into tonight that are just looking to finish out a race decently, and AJ Demarco would fit into that list.
Yeah, this 5 machine obviously has just been struggling to finish out races, and it's just been a struggle from start to finish. 3rd on the board with a 24.171, but DiMarzio's got to be thinking, I got to make sure that my car is clean and I don't try to ruin anyone else's race.
Demarco is going to be making his 10th start of the season here tonight. He's made every start so far, but he's still looking for his first top 10 finish, and he has an average finish of around 23rd, as now it's going to be Beau Brady, former winner from this season. He's heading out, and Brady has hit a bit of a rough spot the last couple of weeks. USA last week was not good for him. The week before at Texas did not turn out the way that he planned, and it dropped him down to 10th in points coming into this one. So he's got that win from this season, but it doesn't look like a driver that we kind of had circled maybe about 3 weeks ago is going to be in the hunt for the championship.
Yeah, and Beau Brady is going to be one of those drivers coming into qualifying. First of the drivers during practice that hit a sub-24. So we'll see if this 20 machine can carry that forward here during qualifying, and running a little bit lower than what everyone else is, and also coming up high. Beau Brady looking quick, but not able to crack the 24s.
Well, aside from that little wiggle there in 3 and 4, it looked like a very solid lap was going on, but it'd be very interesting to find out where he lost the time, because that car looked pretty stable. As you said, 4th on the board right now, and now we look at Cooper Johnson in the 14, who was very impressive last week at USA International. We'll see if that short track program can carry over here to Iowa.
Yeah, it was impressive back at that, and also impressive back at Texas at the debut race for this 14 machine. And I think Cooper Johnson every week just been stepping up the game week after week, but right now 2nd on the board with that time of a 24.166.
A 10th and a half off the pole lap currently held by Peyton Hill, as last week's winner and new points leader John Whitendorf coming off of turn 4. We'll see what he's going to be able to lay down as he's going to clock in.
I believe that's the start of his warm-up lap, and now this time is counting. So John Whitendorf, he's just been battling back and forth right on Gerald Campbell's bumper most weeks, as we'll see what this 33 machine can do out of 4. Looking like a clean lap, but we've seen clean laps, and this one looks like it just was off the marker of besting Peyton Hill with a 24.57057, which is going to be 300ths off of what Peyton Hill just put down.
So right now, Peyton Hill holding that top position, but a driver that held the pole last week at USA International out on the track right now. That's the 07 of Seth Harrelson, looking for back-to-back pole positions.
Yeah, Seth Harrelson. I mean, the racing-wise, when the race starts, the 07's been just struggling. It has not been a good year, a good season for the Seth Harrelson here, but qualifying-wise, has been extremely consistent the last couple of weeks, and this time by 3rd on the board with a 24.077.
So it looks like right now, Harrelson could very well be at least starting up inside of the top 10. Only time will tell if it will be up inside of the top 5. We saw the first Houndshell, Jason, out there, and now his brother Jake takes to the racetrack. Jake Houndshell, 4th in points, the driver that we're kind of saying has the long shot chance to still be in the hunt for the championship. Little wiggle off of 4. We'll see what he's going to clock in at. And a 24.091 for Jake Houndshell currently puts him 4th on the board.
And now Joseph Qazi in the 8 machine going to be out on track. And Qazi really just been under the radar these last couple of weeks since he's been racing. Hasn't been the flashiest driver, but certainly hasn't been the worst at all.
No, I think when we get down into long runs, he certainly would be up in the top 5 drivers that picks up spots. I remember back at Texas, he was right outside the top 20. Next thing we knew, he was knocking on the door of the top 10. So one of those drivers that really likes the car to come to him the longer the run goes on, as he'll bring that very familiar blue and white Oreo paint scheme top of the board, 23.997.
Sub 24 finally has been cracked, and it took a while to get there, but I'm expecting a lot of these drivers coming up. We got Blaine Atkin now on track, and it's going to be interesting to see if Jacob Putman is able. It looks like he's disconnected. Is Atkin running extremely wide, trying to get as much momentum as possible to start up this lap time. 0.5. He is going to be pushing it to the max. I think he's going to be loose a lot coming out of these corners.
Saw that car unsponsored last week at USA International. He's got some sponsorship on there here this week, so at this rate, he will have a fully sponsored car by the time we get to the season finale at North Wilkesboro. Is off the corner. That might have been the widest we've seen anybody come off of turn 4. We'll see if it translates to a good lap. Third on the board right now, 24.040.
Yeah, going to be a total of 17 thousandths off of Qazi's time. I mean, off of Peyton Hill's time. So, good enough for third place. Now it's going to be on the board and on the track, excuse me. That's going to be Anthony Grenary in the 16 machine.
Yeah, we saw Anthony Grenary really strong last week. He was out in front, led quite a bit of the USA race, and finished up inside of the top 10 as he got a little squirrely there off of 4, and that's going to hurt his lap time. 7th on the board there for Sim Helper Chevrolet, but you know, he was good at one short track. We'll see if he will be yet again, as now Gerald Campbell, who has the most poles this season, but it's been a while since we've seen that 25 on the inside of the front row.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue for Gerald Campbell has been, I think, the last couple of weeks, probably been Shane Tarian, who is not going to be here and probably won't be here for the rest of the season, as they've got prior obligations that popped up. But Gerald Campbell was on a complete roll of pole positions, and it looks like he might be going for it again.
He is going to clock in with a 23.945, and you know, we saw before with Blaine Atkin how he pulled his car right down to the apron on the front straightaway. Campbell adapting that as well. I guess that might be a little bit shorter of a way around the front stretch, and it's going to put him currently top of the board as Hank Steinmiller, third in points. He's now out on track.
Yeah, I mean, the apron is going to be one of the shorter ways around the course, so it makes sense that you would try to put in your best time as low as you can, but Hank Steinmiller is in one of those positions of, oh boy. We'll see if
23.923 for Steinmiller.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous to see, as beating out Gerald Campbell. And I was about to bring up the fact that Hank Steinmiller needs to have an extremely good run here today, and just to put him in a better opportunity to come against and battle John Whitendorf. But Kyle Johnson now on track. It's 88 machine, fastest during practice. We'll see if he can best his time and possibly put himself top of the board here for possibly a pole position. But, you know, the 88 machine, we've seen him have great pole position.
No!
Yep, we've seen him do that as well.
Yep, I was just going to say, it's been that, it's been spin outs, it's been connection problems that have plagued him and dropped him to the back. And here tonight at Iowa, again, going to have some issues in qualifying. And while it's hard luck for him, it's going to be fun for us because we get to watch him work his way through the field again.
Yep, man, that means that winning the pole position of the Dirty Racing Podcast Pole Position Award is going to be Hank Steinmiller in that 63 machine, beating out Gerald Campbell by 21 thousandths of a second. Great time by Hank Steinmiller, and this is probably the best opportunity for Steinmiller. If he could somehow show that he's got pace and continues to hold that pace up front, he could possibly get a win that is needed for the 63 machine.
If we take a look at the 4 drivers that we have in the running for that championship, all 4 of them going to start up inside of the top 8. So, you know, you touched on this before when we've been following that battle of John Whitendorf trying to reel in Gerald Campbell for the points lead. He had one race. I'm trying to remember where it was. It might have been at Texas, or it might have actually been the week before that at Club. But, then we end up having, I think it was Texas and USA, where he finished 1 or 2 positions ahead of Gerald Campbell. But with the point system that we've got here, it's not 1 point per position. They've got the old system, so you're actually gaining multiple points even for just 1 position gained.
Yeah, it's very important to make sure that you do not have a bad day coming here to the last couple of races, and we'll wait and see how the drivers are able to react moving forward. But now we get to see what Kyle Johnson's going to do all the way in the back with this extremely quick machine that we saw during practice, if that can translate, as well as seeing the drivers that are going to be up front, how they're going to be reacting. We know Blaine Atkin going to be extremely aggressive, but the loose sensation already seen during practice and qualifying, that's not good news for the 05, that we saw that same exact thing happen back at Nashville.
So we show you here now the full official starting lineup for this race. We do have one driver that we did not see qualifying. That is, of course, the league administrator, Christopher Morse Jr., but he is in the field, going to be starting shotgun here of this, what right now would be a 21 car field. 2 drivers that were in and we thought were going to take time, but looks like they are not in the server right now. We will keep you guys abreast of whether they get in or not, are the Nashville winner Jacob Putman, as well as the 57 of Caden Thur, who's always been a threat to start up at the front.
Yeah, Thur's been great at qualifying. It's when the race comes around, that consistency just does not translate over. And now not going to be looking like he's going to be starting the race. But up front, Hank Steinmiller, Gerald Campbell. Who's going to be able to get this thing done? Our top 3 did get a little bit of bonus points to work with. Now we'll see who can get some more bonus points and where they'll finish here tonight.
Iowa is just a tick under a mile, so these drivers will have 2 pace laps to think about how they're going to approach going into turn 1 on lap 1. And the lights are on here, Sam, as well. I mean, we ran practice under daylight conditions, twilight conditions for qualifying, so is it going to be a different feeling for these drivers going into turn 1? Now the track might have cooled down a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little bit cooler than it was during practice and also qualifying. It's going to be 82 degrees as track temp, as well as the outside temp. So the driver's going to be working with there's a little bit of a slick sensation, but a little bit more grip than they've been dealing with most of this time. It should help the drivers here because of that nighttime racing, for them to not be as loose, but still, these setups look like it is going to be a heck of a day. A lot of wheelmanship's going to be seen. Who can hold on for 150 laps?
Under the lights here at Iowa Speedway, the Smartway Remodeling 150 is about to go green as Hank Steinmiller in the 63, Gerald Campbell in the 25, going to lead us down. Flagman is ready, and the green flag is in the air.
And immediately the 05 to the inside, trying to make it 3 wide for 3rd place, and will do so as Blaine Atkin, aggressive on these restarts like we've been seeing forever, and gets to 3rd place, and now might be moving forward.
He got a great run there through turn 2 as well, was able to keep the momentum up as now kind of boxed in, nowhere to go with Steinmiller on the bottom, Campbell on the top, and we had a car that seemed to be fading back there, Peyton Hill in the 84. He was up in the 3rd groove in turn 1, so he's starting to fall back a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like Peyton Hill could have been grazing the wall, so he's got to be careful not to get any damage this early on in the race. There's no fast repairs, so these drivers have to be careful.
Outside line's going to prevail down the back straightaway. Gerald Campbell will go to the point. Blaine Atkin moving up to that outer groove as well. So it almost says to me that we may see more and more drivers actually choose the higher line than right down there on the bottom.
Yeah, the high line, like I said, this is going to be a lot more of side-by-side racing. The 2 grooves are very workable on where you're going to be, but down these front and straightaways...
Oh, we got a spinner! Seth Harrelson off of turn 2. No caution.
He's going to be all the way on the inside, trying to get back on track, and will do so. Will stay green as up front, still side-by-side action. Blaine Atkin to the point as he's almost clear, and Hank Steinmiller just lingering and waiting.
So impressive, the run that he's able to get off the corner. You saw him get a great launch off of turn 4. We saw him get a launch off turn 2 on the very first lap, but he wiggled there. Into the wall goes Blaine Atkin. Campbell has to duck to the middle. Steinmiller takes him 3 wide.
Somehow they were able to back off and give the 05 some room, but that damage that we just saw Blaine Atkin get, it shouldn't be too bad, hurting him on this long run, but could be something that affects him later on in this race.
Yeah, if you consider a lot of the short tracks that we're going to here at the close of the season, I would say that more than likely Iowa is the one with the longer straightaways, so damage I think would affect you more aerodynamically here than it would have last week at USA or at Dover that we're going to next week.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. You got to be careful with the damage that you're going to be ensuing. Payne Hill has dropped all the way back to 7th place. Looking at some drivers that are able to make some moves forward. John Weitendorf has been able to go up 1 position, and Jake Houndshell started back in 8th place. He's now up to 6th.
He actually just took the 5th position away from John Weitendorf there through turns 1 and 2. Now Weitendorf goes back to the bottom, trying to take the spot back. Up further ahead of them, Joseph Qazi. He's got thoughts on 3rd place with Gerald Campbell, and now Steinmiller, he's going to try and go back to the lead.
I think this is the biggest difference that we've been seeing the evolution of Blaine Atkin throughout the season. Is Blaine used to be the driver that would get up front and just push as hard as he could to try to build up as big of a gap as possible. And now we're seeing Blaine Atkin possibly thinking, save tires, even though I'm one of the fastest cars out here, as Gerald Campbell gets out of shape and able to hold on and stay off the wall.
Well, I almost wonder, too, if maybe we're starting to see the aggressiveness that we're used to out of Blaine Atkin taper off a little bit, because if you remember back, we think back to the 87 series, where they had faster pairs available. There's no faster pairs available now, so it's almost as if you have no choice but to kind of change up your racing style and your level of aggressiveness.
The only race that we have seen the aggressiveness work out for Blaine Atkin has to be back at Richmond, where he just dominated, and everyone else was thinking the tires were going to drop off, and they never did. I think that's a scenario that would fit Blaine Atkin the most, with that aggressive temptation that he has to just push as hard as he can. But at the moment, staying and waiting is Hank Steinmiller. Be staying up front and doing a great job, as really we're seeing the rest of the back slowly gain up to what our front 8 were. But man, looking as Qazi side by side, still being challenged here by Jake Houndshell.
And I gotta wonder too, at what point, I know that obviously the cooler track conditions will make this not happen quite as early. Whoa, as Grenary gets loose back there. But I definitely know that at this type of a racetrack, the kind of gradual banking you've got going into the corner, it is going to kill that right front. And if you're down that inside line, there's going to be a point in this run where your car's going to want to go straight, and you're going to have to back off even more to compensate for it. I'm seeing these side-by-side battles with drivers driving it deep into turn 1. It's kind of making me nervous with them coming off of turn 2.
These drivers should be all right for at least the first 25 laps or so, but it's really going to start hitting them hard about 30 to 35 laps into this run if we stay green on how the tires are going to be really dropping off from one another. I got to give credit, though, to Kyle Johnson. We talked about how he had a terrible qualifying run. He got into the wall, started all the way back in 20th place. He's now moved up to 11th and continues to charge forward. This 88 machine looks extremely quick and one of the fastest cars on track.
Oh, no, and he just got an AJ Demarco. We were just on board with him as he got into the left rear of the 5 machine. Demarco, I think, is still going. The caution has not been displayed yet.
Yeah, it looked like he thought he was going to be clear trying to go down, but the 5 could have backed off way sooner. But that's going to be hurting also Hamlet a lot. He got into the wall. But man, that is hard racing and really expecting to see that continuing forward.
And you got to wonder now how that's going to affect Kyle Johnson's momentum up to the front of the field. He would have gotten at least some contact to the right front of his machine, right around that right front headlight.
Yeah, I'm going back and re-looking at it, and it looks like the 88 might have gotten away with even that contact. Not as much damage as I was expecting him to see. I think really Kyle Johnson lucky there, but it's the 5 of AJ Demarco that is not lucky with a hard contact right side into the wall.
2 drivers flying up through the field. Kyle Johnson, who started back in 20th, and you're looking here at the AC Delco Chevrolet of Christopher Morse Jr., who started back in 21st. He's now up to 12th.
Yeah, right now, Kyle Johnson's going to be about 3.1 seconds back from our leader. Christopher Morse Jr. is going to be about 3.8 back from our leader, but still, both those drivers extremely quick. Based off the lap times that they're putting down, though, they could be competing up front with our top 3.
Hank Steinmiller has pulled away by about 3 car lengths over Blaine Atkin. You're looking here at the battle for the 3rd position. Campbell, Qazi, Jake Houndshell, and John Weitendorf, as now the 0-2 pushes up the track. He actually almost got the wall there. He went so wide off the turn.
Yeah, he was feeling a lot of pressure there from Weitendorf, and that made Weitendorf now have to back off from those drivers as they're continuing to just race so hard up front and throughout the pack, really not giving an inch.
Saw there Peyton Hill tried to capitalize on the momentum lost by John Whitendorf. He had to check up after trying to drive it in deep, and now that group that we had is kind of broken up a little bit. Some daylight in between second to third, back from third to fourth, back from fourth to fifth. Looking for a really good battle, though. Follow just outside of the top 10. That's where you find Grenary. Kyle Johnson up the middle with Beau Brady and Cooper Johnson.
Yeah, Cooper Johnson actually was going to be that driver trying to possibly force it 3 wide. Backs out smartly there, but now he's got to be worrying about the 3. But Kyle Johnson able to get Beau Brady out of the way. Beau Brady drifting down into Cooper, and you know, that little bit of a pinch off the corner to try to hold that car down. It's so smart to be trying to pinch the cars because of how loose everyone's been on the inside. Kyle Johnson now trying to get by Grenary, and he's got to be careful on the inside. How loose we are going to continue to see these cars get the longer the run goes on.
Whoa, he pushed up there just a tad in turn 1. I don't know if it was more so that or that the 16 kind of came down and pinned him down. You were talking about that, trying to stop the momentum, but we nearly had some contact between the two over in the first corner. And look at Christopher Morse Jr. That loss of momentum, he's taking advantage. He's going to drive to the inside of Beau Brady, looking for 10th. Not quite going to be able to make a move yet.
Grenary's got to be careful. Kyle Johnson's in the same exact spot that he was in when he almost spun around the 5 machine. And this is like same spot, same scenario. Could be a bump trying to get that 16 car out of shape.
Well, he definitely did. The 16's back end swinging around on a straightaway, and he had that 88 almost lifting his rear tires off the ground. Kyle Johnson saying, hey, I'm here, let me by. And sometimes, especially early on this race, it might be better to just actually move out of the way. Let that driver by, because you don't want that coming back to haunt you later in the race.
Yeah, I mean, you easily could be taking both drivers out, and especially with how close everyone is, a little bit more contact between the 16 and the 88. But the more that they keep on battling as hard as they are, they're bringing in the 3 drivers behind them of seeing Brady, Morris, and then also Johnson just waiting, but they're stuck. And if any contact that could be spinning out the 16 or the 88, they're going to be sitting ducks to be involved in that incident.
Twice we've seen Kyle Johnson get up to the back bumper of the 16, and we know that at a short track, patience will soon run out. And so you got to wonder if Kyle Johnson gets up there a third time, what is he going to do? Will he look to the inside here in turn 1, or will he maybe try and move that 16 up the hill again?
And as we're continuing to watch that battle there for 8th place, an update for the drivers up front. Blaine Atkin is starting to drop back and lose positions. He went from 2nd place, now back to 5th, as he just lost a position to Jake Houndshell.
Continuing to drop, and his lap times are showing. A lot of drivers up there running 25.0s, 25.1s. He ran a 25.2. So may have used up his tires even less than 25 laps into this race as Kyle Johnson finally makes the pass on Anthony Grenary. Christopher Morse Jr. trying to do the same. Might also be the same scenario here for the 16 because you spent so much time battling with a driver to hold your position. Next thing you know, your tires are gone.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing Kyle Johnson just trying to pave a way, and the driver that's just been following this pavement being made is the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. He might not be in complete disaster here with how hard they've been pushing. Could be trying to save his tires while watching the 88 just bully the drivers in front of him out of the way.
Further back in the field around the 14th position, good 3-way battle. James Goshen in the 85, Jason Houndshell in the 15, and Ernest King in the 24. It's now a side-by-side battle for 15th place between Houndshell and King. This going on just behind Peyton Hamlet as well. So you got about 4 drivers in the same vicinity here. So we've got little battles here and there throughout the field. Up towards the front, the close battle right now, though, is for the 5th spot.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to battle right here as John Whitendorf able to get by Blaine Atkin as Atkin continues to drop back in. I would say possibly Atkin is in a tire-saving mode, but with how aggressive he was pushing there in those first 4 laps, I would say he's just trying to hold on to everything that he's got. Now battling back on Whitendorf as they're side-by-side, almost making contact down the backstretch.
Saw the interval closing between Gerald Campbell and Hank Steinmiller. Campbell ready to pounce to try and lead his first lap of the night, but gets a little too tight off of 4. Cannot complete the pass this time as looks like Hank Steinmiller saying, hey, if you're going to pass me, you're going to have to take that inside line where you're going to get tight because 3 and 4 looks like Steinmiller is very comfortable in that 2.5 groove.
Yeah, looking extremely good, and that's the thing is when you're the leader is you can pick and choose where you want to place your car and kind of be like a wall at times. Of covering multiple lanes by where you place your machine, and Campbell right now might be in a little bit of a reset mode of, okay, I know I can beat this 63 machine, but where do I find the weakness of this driver? Where is the constant and the consistent slip-ups being made that I can make that move?
You know, it's interesting. We were talking in Victory Lane last week to John Whitendorf, and he said that his goal each and every week was just to kind of figure out where he was on track in the vicinity of the 25, and even if it was 1 or 2 positions, just to finish ahead of Gerald Campbell. That's what's been the success story of him reeling in Campbell from what was nearly a 100-point deficit. Now a 5-point lead coming into this race for Whitendorf, but he is 3 positions behind Campbell.
Yeah, based off of the bonus points that have been made so far, I would say Gerald Campbell would possibly have over a 20-point lead going into next week if the race ended where it's at right now. But you know, John Whitendorf's going to be trying to battle to get up front, but also just trying to stay within a margin of, if someone makes a mistake, I can gain those positions, at least keep it close enough for later on in this race. Kyle Johnson and Christopher Morse Jr. back in 8th place. They are continuing to battle extremely hard. Just an update as we're watching the battling up front.
All right, it's been a while since we've actually been able to have this question poised, but it's a short track. Yet I'm looking at the lap times right now. When they first went green, they were running 24.2s, 24.3s. They are now a full second off that pace, 30 laps into this run. You know, is there a possibility we could see some drivers go with the 2-stop strategy, 50 laps, and 50 laps? Some drivers go with the halfway point, 75 and 75. And if that's the case, just based on how far off these tires have fallen, which strategy would you fall into?
I think I would go for the 75, split this race right in half, try to go as far as I can go with these tires until I'm absolutely forced to come in. You know that some of the drivers like Beau Brady and Kyle Johnson most likely are going to be the ones pitting around lap 50, seeing the lap changes and being like, hey, we can gain a lot of time here if we pit this many times, and I think that's a really good choice. But overall, you're going to be having a lot of struggles side by side for the lead. Hank Steinmiller trying to get by Gerald Campbell. Campbell on the inside and pushes up in contact made before 2.
Into the 63 of Steinmiller. Steinmiller's going to have some left side damage. Campbell's going to have some right side damage. You can see right there, gentlemanly thing there to do for the 25. He realized that he was the driver at fault, gave up the spot, and gave Steinmiller the lead back.
Yeah, but there's an issue with, you were seeing the graphic change, but there was a hard contact to that front end, and it's going to continue that way. We're waiting to see once the graphic gets changed for the 63, but for everyone else on track, everyone on track is seeing that 63 driving with 3 wheels, which on Steinmiller's end, he's got all 4 wheels still racing and good, as now it's gotten fixed. But that was an interesting thing that Campbell was seeing after the contact he made with 63.
We had the same situation happen with a driver last week at USA International, and I honestly thought that was the damage the car had sustained. Was very relieved to see that left front tire went back down into the wheel well, so it didn't quite give me as much of a heart-stopping moment this time because I knew it was going to be the same scenario.
Yeah, with the new damage model that has come out here on iRacing for some of these cars, it kind of is deceiving at times of what's going to be horrendous damage and what's more of a graphical visual damage for these drivers. And sometimes when the wheel just pops out of its spot, that's usually a graphical damage that we're just seeing and not actual aero damage that's being made. But back to what I was talking about with the pit stops, these drivers that are going to be pitting early around lap 50 trying to get that advantage, it's going to hurt them in the long run if we have a caution that comes out later on, which is mostly going to happen if we see a lot of drivers coming into pit road while the other half stay out on older tires.
You know what I'm kind of almost wondering here, and I think we had this happen a few weeks ago at Phoenix, is a lot of drivers got used to how their car handled on the older tires. They then came to pit road, took on the slicks, and when they came off pit road, they weren't used to the loose sensation off the corner, and I think we had a couple of cautions come out just because of fresher tires as Peyton Hill gets a bump from behind. I'll tell you what, Kyle Johnson is using his front bumper tonight.
Oh boy, and Cooper Johnson's going to be moving uphill a little bit as Kyle Johnson's going to be trying to split it 3 wide back here for these drivers battling for 8th place.
Kyle Johnson, you'd think he was battling for the race lead right now, taking no prisoners, and undoubtedly probably the most aggressive driver on track as he pushes up there. We're still almost 3 wide down the back straightaway.
trying to take some keys from Rocky Boyd earlier in the season. Just move the driver if he's in the way. But this is an issue because it looks like, seeing Kyle Johnson the way that he's driving, he is just scraping and clawing for everything he can hold on to because his tires are gone. He's dropping back in positions.
And we've got a slower car there as well. That is Shane Lake in the 81 who's gone a lap down. Fortunately, he's going to be able to get down below the yellow line onto the apron to let these three continue to race. Another driver that appears to be somewhat off the pace, and now it looks like he actually is back up to speed, was Seth Harrelson in the 07. I was watching him and Shane Lake. They were running very similar telemetry at one point there, but it looks like Harrelson's still back up to speed. But, of course, with his spin off of turn 2, he's in danger of going a lap down momentarily.
If we're going to be seeing a wreck, it's going to be back here in 7th place as Blaine Atkin is so off the pace, getting loose, punching everyone, and Kyle Johnson loose in the center of the pinball machine.
Little contact now between him and Cooper Johnson. You see the damage model this time on the right front of the 14 machine. It now settles out, but you could tell that there wouldn't have been that damage model if there was not contact between those two.
Yeah, I mean, the 88 was bouncing up on Blaine Atkin, then came down into Cooper Johnson, and now you also could throw in Anthony Grenary into the mix. It went from a 3-car battle, now 5.
Oh boy, remember we had a couple of shots from the 88 to the back bumper of the 16. Now the roles are reversed. The 16's on the back bumper of the 88. So will we see a little payback here? Gonna have to wait and see as, boy, these 5, they are just all wadded up right now. 5 drivers, 5 entirely different lanes there going into turn 3.
Yeah, and they're all having the same issue of loose out of the corner, and we're continuing to see that. The major contenders that are having the biggest issues, Kyle Johnson and Blaine Atkin, they continue to be the loosest, and their rear ends just swinging all over the place after coming out of these corners.
Nothing yet happening up at the front as now Kyle Johnson's going to get hard into the outside wall off of turn 2. This is where the best battling is going on right now, just outside of the top 5. This is 7th back through 11th that you could throw a blanket over, and Johnson still is in the running here as he didn't lose that much ground. He dropped from 9th back to 11th.
Yeah, but then in front of them, the battle for 7th place, you got Peyton Hill as Blaine Atkin just scraped the wall out of 2. But Cooper Johnson trying to get by this 84 Ford machine, and looks like might be able to do so with a slide job crossover move. Might be happening here with 83 right down to the middle.
Yes, indeed. Peyton Hill going to go down to the inside into turn 1. And just going back to some of the drivers we've seen get up into that wall, Blaine Atkin and Kyle Johnson as Cooper Johnson getting close to that left rear coming into turn 2. But with them getting up there into the wall, obviously that's either an indication that they're running a little too high off corner exit, or that right front is starting to go away. And the bad news for them is that condition's not going to get any better.
No, it's getting worse and worse. Blaine Atkin as well as Kyle Johnson, they just continue to be almost scraping the wall coming out of 2 every lap at this point. And it went from, hey, we're loose, we're getting close to that outside wall, to this outside wall is the only way we're getting around this course. And it is just going to grow into a bigger and bigger issue. And just looking at the lap times themselves, you can see how off these drivers are based off of battling one another and how badly loose they are off the corner.
Battle for the lead starting to brew again as we watch the battle for 4th place. John Whitendorf to the inside of Jake Houndshell. Christopher Morris Jr. waiting in the wings there to see if he can get up here and make it a 3-man fight inside of the top 5.
Whitendorf's trying to do the best that he can, but Christopher Morris Jr. might be the driver that's on the biggest move of being able to try to save his tires. I talked about how he was just following suit when Kyle Johnson was paving the way. Ever since then, he's just been watching the drivers in front of him lose tires because of how hard they were pushing, and just able to easily pass on by all the drivers he's passed so far.
And it's almost looking like now at this point that neither line gains as much of an advantage over the other as it did earlier on in this race, because if you're on that outside line, you've got the loose condition coming off the corner. If you're on the inside line, you've got the tight condition coming off the turn.
Yeah, it's really a lose-lose battle at this point of how you want to attack this course. But so far, everyone holding on, and you got to be extremely impressed in the fact that the field has been green for over 52 laps once we crossed the line, and we've been able to stay green this whole entire time. Now the thought of what you were throwing out, when do we see, and if we see, anyone decide to pit here in the next 15 laps or so?
Yeah, not only that, I mean, not really certain I myself have never actually driven this track. I'm not certain how difficult it is to get onto pit road here at Iowa.
It's pretty difficult. I mean, the banking doesn't look as aggressive, but it's still, you're going from a bank transition to a flat surface, and you're also still trying to turn and slow down at the same time, which brakes and turning are not a good mixture at all. As still watching this battle for fourth place, it is Christopher Morris Jr. is just ready to easily get by the 0-2, but we've seen the 3 and the 0-2 mix it up during the season. We'll see if it continues on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a mistake wreck that took place that you're referring to back at Richmond when Jake Houndshell was trapped up on the outside of the racetrack, came back down. Unfortunately, it was Chris Morris Jr., the one that clobbered him. Keep seeing that interval for the race lead occasionally will start closing up, but the only reason it keeps closing up is they start encountering some lap traffic. Seth Harrelson's gone a lap down, Ernest King has gone a lap down. Next driver on the hit list would be the 83 of David White, as we do have a driver on pit road here. Don't know if this is scheduled or unscheduled, but the 81 of Shane Lake, who was already a lap down, he's hit pit road.
Yeah, I think Shane Lake's just coming in, trying to get some repairs done. I think he might have gotten into the wall a couple of times and possibly into other drivers in the back half of the field, and just trying to get fresh rubber, as it's been a struggle for almost all these drivers. And if you're in the back half of the field, you're just thinking, hey, what am I going to be losing by pitting this early? If anything, could be gaining some time, as looks like this battle back here I'm watching for fourth. Ernest King is just going to try to get out of the way for these drivers.
Anthony Grenary and Peyton Hill a bit further back. They're in a tussle for the 8th position. So far, no advantage. Edges out half a car length does Peyton Hill on that outside line, but Grenary comes right back alongside on the bottom. Might be able to clear here going through 3 and 4, but one driver that's been kind of running almost up against the wall consistently has been that 84 car. Back when we were focused on that 5-6 car pack, just inside, just outside of the top 10, Peyton Hill was leading that group, and he kept running that 4th groove right up against the wall.
Yeah, he's going to be staying in the middle to 3rd lane, possibly all the way on the wall like you've been seeing. And I think it's more so of a comfort level for this 84 machine of, hey, let's not put it too low. But the issue is when cars drift up like Grenary did, it kind of forces you to have to worry about the wall, as Ernest King is also going to be putting that machine into the pits after being put a lap down. Other machines that we haven't really talked about but started further back in the field and now almost in the top 10. Jason Houndshell in that 00, he's starting to make a charge up to our top 10.
Yeah, Houndshell ended up qualifying outside of the top 15 and now finds himself in the 11th position, and might have been one of those drivers that was saving his tires, because he just got around Blaine Atkin. He's got Kyle Johnson up ahead, 2 drivers that we pegged early on as drivers that had used up their stuff.
Yeah, just needed to have a decent day for themselves. But our leaders really having some issues with lap traffic, it sounds like, as it looks like A.J. DiMarzio almost took out our leader as they were trying to get by the 5 machine.
And that is translated now to a lead change. Gerald Campbell edges ahead just a bit there through 1 and 2. Steinmiller trying to take the position back. I think Campbell led that lap as well, so it's his first lap led. He now clears for the top position, and that's one thing that we didn't really touch on. We talked about, them making their way around traffic, but that definitely is something these drivers, these race leaders are going to have to think about, setting up the traffic ahead of them and making a pass.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is the fact that the 5 machine, this has been a tendency of him getting involved and in the way at times of lead lap cars, and it looks like it has continued on here today.
And, if you think about it too, there's 4 grooves, so it's not like you don't have options to be able to get out of the way of the race leaders. There should be some communication there of leaders, where are you running, and you run the opposite, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and I'm going to wager a guess that the frustration you heard over the radio was out of that 63, because Hank Steinmiller was doing a good job cutting his way through the traffic and keeping Gerald Campbell at bay, but now the hunted has become the hunter.
Yeah, and it's actually the frustration has continued all the way back to even for 4th place, as John Whitendorf got a little frustrated with the 5 machine trying to get by him. So it's just going to be continuously, because all the drivers are now trying to run the high side because of how old the tires are. And now we're going to be worrying about Ernest King and Shane Lake, as they're on 4 fresh tires. They're going to be trying to get by all the drivers on the older tires.
Yeah, just there in your shot, that number 24, that red machine, is Ernest King. There you see him down on the inside line against the old tires of John Whitendorf and Christopher Morris Jr. running in 4th and 5th. and you're just going to see the difference going here into turns 1 and 2. The grip that 24 car has, especially from the center of the corner off.
Battle for the lead, side-by-side action through 1 and 2, and now still side-by-side through 3 and 4.
It's interesting now, Hank Steinmiller, who we saw holding the outside line through 3 and 4.
Oh, he's coming up.
The inside line. He almost gets up there into Gerald Campbell, and I'm almost wondering if you're Hank Steinmiller right now, do you at least want to just keep the 25 within striking distance before pit stops, or do you want to pass him? Do you want to be that lead car when these pit stops begin?
I would imagine you want to be passing him and trying to be that lead car. We talk about how some drivers have to try something different. Kyle Johnson, first car of those that have been on the lead lap coming into the pits.
And I just saw the back of our camera shot there watching the battle for the lead. That 8 of Joseph Qazi. He is starting to close in on our top 2.
Yeah, Qazi right now running about 0.2 faster than what our leaders are because they've been side by side for so long. So it's now bringing in that driver. Also, John Weindorf and Christopher Morris Jr., they might be about a little bit under 2 seconds back from our leaders, but they're running now about 0.2 faster than what our leaders were running.
Almost makes you wonder just how much Gerald Campbell and Hank Steinmiller, with the side-by-side battles we've seen them have, whether it be Steinmiller the race leader or Campbell the race leader, how much of their tires they are actually using up here.
Also, a little bit of an update on Kyle Johnson. He did pit around 14th place, which is about 15 seconds back from our leader. So if our leaders don't pit for another 15 laps, we could be seeing ourselves a new leader, but for how long if we stay green that long?
All right, so now the question for Kyle Johnson here is he seeing this thing go green to the end? Did the fuel window just open, or is he planning for a caution to possibly come out here somewhere in the vicinity of the final 30 laps?
I think his goal must be just hope that this thing stays green to the end. I mean, this is a great call on his part. If he's able to make sure that everyone can stay out for possibly another 20 to 30 laps, then you could find yourself with possibly a second lead over most of the field. So we'll see how the drivers are going to be going.
I think we're going to probably see this car on pit road in the not too distant future. Someone may have attached a parachute to the back end of Blaine Atkin's car. He is now free falling all the way back to the 13th position. Just lost 12th to James Goshen about a lap and a half ago.
Yeah, looking at more battles that are going on, it's now going to be Cooper Johnson and Jake Houndshell. Cooper Johnson's been doing a great job trying to run down some of these drivers as the 14 machine kind of saving his tires until this time to make his charge forward. But the only issue is he's blinking right now, and they've got a driver that's got fresh tires of Shane Lake behind him, trying to figure out how to get by these drivers, but he's got to be so patient because he's a lap down machine.
Yeah, Cooper Johnson has been dealing with that issue of blinking in and out the entirety of this race, but doing a good job, though, of keeping himself away from other drivers with that situation he's got, but at the same time keeping himself in the competition of being up inside of the top 5. Just one more spot to go, but he's got about 5 seconds to make up on Christopher Morris Jr. Has more traffic to deal with. Beau Brady in the 20, just ahead of Campbell and Steinmiller. He will move down to the inside. Let these two continue to battle.
Yeah, Beau Brady, there's just the slump that he has had after winning back at Phoenix. It has just not been good for this 20 machine. Hopefully we'll be able to get a rebound in these last 2 races, but here at Iowa just has not been good for that 20 machine.
I'll tell you what, I just saw there for race leader Gerald Campbell off of turn 2. We've seen a lot of drivers fighting the back end of the race car, wanting to come around on them. I think that last time off of 2, we'll see if it happens here again this lap, but it's almost looking like he is cranking that wheel as far to the left as it possibly will go, as if that car wants to go up straight into the wall.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is if you're trying to carry as much speed as possible, you're going to be trying to make as many bold moves as you can. It's AJ DiMarzio, who just came into the pits a couple laps ago, trying to get back past our leaders and trying to get at least one lap back that he was 1 lap down before.
Beau Brady, who just lost a lap, he is now down pit road in the number 20 machine. And for a number of these drivers that either were just on the tail end of the lead lap or were just put a lap down, they are not only losing 1 lap, but they are losing 2 laps to the leaders now. Drivers like Brady, Ernest King, and AJ DiMarzio.
I'm watching the battle back for 3rd place as Qazi as well as Whitendorf. They're side by side in front, as our leaders are also side by side in front of them. I mean, it's crazy to look and see as Hank Steinmiller digging it deep down low again. We'll see if he can hold it, but We've seen him drift up coming out of the corner. If he can somehow get clear of the 25, we possibly... Nope, here comes Gerald Campbell once again.
Yeah, see, Steinmiller right now is experiencing exactly what Campbell was experiencing before when he was trying to take the race lead, but I think Steinmiller cleared him. He did. Steinmiller goes back to the point. I wasn't sure he was actually going to be able to clear going into turn 1, but he was successful. Prior to that, he would get about a half car length ahead, but then the tightness would kick in, and the outside line run for Gerald Campbell would give him the advantage. But new race leader Hank Steinmiller, and I'm wondering how much of that was muscle of the 63 and how much of it was Gerald Campbell saying, all right, I'm going to let you go ahead and use up your stuff.
One of the fastest cars within our top 5 just came into the pits. That's going to be Christopher Morris Jr. And that 3 machine, if he could somehow get into the pits and be out there a little bit further than the rest of the field by about 5 laps, that 3 machine's going to have the lead and was extremely quick later on in the run.
Peyton Hill is in also, and also now hitting pit road from the 3rd spot will be Joseph Qazi. Cooper Johnson just on the top of your screen. He's on pit road as well.
It's that halfway marker that all these drivers were waiting for, but the question is, when will our leaders come in? They can try to push it out probably until lap 85 might be the furthest that they can go based off of tires, but you're going to lose so much time. You got to hope. But our leaders, both of them coming into the pits, but they got to be careful not to hit that water barrel as Gerald Campbell comes sliding into pit road.
There's just ahead of the race leaders. That is Blaine Atkin, who is about to go a lap down. John Whitendorf from 3rd is in. Jake Houndshell also comes to pit road. Anthony Grenary is in, and almost wondering who's that one driver that might try stretching it as far as the fuel will go. You're looking at him, that 85 of James Goshen.
But Goshen was about 15 laps back. 15 seconds back, excuse me. And then also Randy Kokine will be staying out in that 19 machine. Goshen is really trying something bold here by staying out. The issue is he's going to have so many cars with fresher tires. I don't know if he's going to have space to even come down into pit road now.
Well, the thing I think right now he is thinking about, along with Randy Kokine, is, they probably, because they were so far back, didn't run quite the fast pace, which means they would have a little bit extra fuel, I would think, than the rest of the other leaders that came down pit road. And if you could maybe catch the caution at just the right time, I don't think you'll have the whole field trapped a lap down, but you might have all but the top 10 trapped a lap down, and that could play into your advantage if you're just trying to leave Iowa with a top 10 finish.
Once those front 2 come into the pits, the battle for 3rd place to see who will be our leader. Once we see everyone in that pit cycle fully all the way through, Christopher Morris Jr. able to make the pass on Kyle Johnson as Johnson's been out there for 15 laps on these tires. Not surprised that he's losing out a battle where he's running about 4/10 slower than the rest of the field.
Yeah, and this is going to make things interesting if we go green to the finish, because Christopher Morris Jr., yes, he did come down pit road earlier.
Yellow!
Oh, and I shouldn't have said anything. Caution is out. It's the 5 of A.J. Demarco on the front stretch.
And it looks like it might have been some help for the 5 machine, as coming out of 4 extremely loose, gets into the outside wall, for some reason comes down in front of the 24 machine, and that's what brings out our yellow here today, our first one of the day. And Randy Kokine has got to be having so much glee. And the driver that just came into the pits right when that yellow came out was going to be James Goshen.
This might very well be, I'd have to look back and see, this might very well be the very first lap led here in the G-Force Grand National Series for Randy Kokine, as that caution very timely for him. I think just when that caution came out, the 85 had ducked onto pit road. It'd be kind of interesting to see if he came down a closed pit lane or not at the timing of that yellow flag. But now Randy Kokine comes down pit road, and I think the one driver did not want to see that caution, because I was just about to talk about him, was that 3 of Christopher Morris Jr., because yes, he came down ahead of everybody else, but only 3 laps before most of the rest of the field. So it wasn't going to be that huge of a deficit of tires.
Yeah, it really wasn't. But Goshen, I think he just got into pit road about 10 feet. He was inside before pit road closed. Whoo! Goshen saved by the skin of his teeth.
I think we had 12 drivers on the lead lap at the timing of that caution. And most of these drivers had already been to pit road, so I think we're going to have quite a number of our leaders still staying out, which means the wave around option for quite a number of the drivers that were trapped a lap down, it may not be there.
Yeah. Right now, it looks like Seth Harrelson, everyone is going to be trying to take the wave around here. if they can. But looks like some drivers were able to be in front of the 3 and the 8s just because of the way that the caution came out, and then our leader coming into the pits.
Like what, Jason Houndshell, Peyton Hamlet, and Blaine Atkin might be those drivers that are eligible for the wave around here.
Yeah, Hamlet's already in front of our leader. So is David White, Shane Lake, and Blaine Atkin are those drivers that are going to be trying to get at least one of their laps back. Blaine Atkin should be the last car to get his lap back.
Riding on board here with the 24 of Ernest King. And we're about to see what happened to him in this wreck. There you see the 5 of AJ DeMarzo and the 14 of Cooper Johnson going by. And there's just going to be no area for this 24 to be able to go, because as you said, he was kind of committed to his lane. It was the 5 of DeMarzo who came down the track in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, DeMarzo, the way that he was stuck in the wall, I think it was just a lack of awareness. I think he could have been able to hold that machine up in the wall, let the 24 go, and then came down, but just tried something different. A driver, though, that is having some internet connection issues is going to be Beau Brady, who's got disconnected right when that yellow came out and tried to connect back in, and looks like he might just take the DNF for the day.
So our Phoenix winner looks like he will be the first driver to retire from this race. 21 drivers started the race, 20 still on track. But the drivers that took the wave around, looks like we're going to have 15 of them on the lead lap when we go back green flag racing. And, you know, we talked about top of this program just before qualifying potential first-time winners here this season. Well, you've got 3 of them up there inside of the top 3.
Christopher Morris Jr., Qazi, as well as Steinmiller. I mean, that's a pretty solid group of drivers that you would think at some point they would have gotten a win. But, man, Christopher Morris Jr., I think it's probably one of the biggest surprises that we haven't seen this 3 machine in victory lane yet. Steinmiller, he's been consistent, but not always the favorite to win races, but always a good driver to finish in the top 5, top 3. Qazi's probably the biggest wild card of the 3 drivers up front in our top 5. Then you look outside of our top 5, Peyton Hill. He'll now have another chance here to try to stay up front with these drivers, as well as Cooper Johnson is going to have a chance to run up front.
And it looked like staying out for James Goshen pays dividends. He'll be restarting back in the 10th position, just behind Anthony Grenary, Peyton Hill, Jake Houndshell, Cooper Johnson. That's 6th through 10th right there. Gerald Campbell, I mean, we saw the great battle between himself and Hank Steinmiller just before those pit stops began. That is now your second row. So this is going to be interesting to watch how aggressive they're going to be to try and get around this front row of Christopher Morris Jr. and Joseph Qazi as we're back underway here in the second half of the race.
Christopher Morris Jr. able to get a great launch out, and now going to be on the high side as Qazi's going to be trying to defend as much as he can. But Steinmiller able to make the pass for second place. Here comes that 63 machine.
Now it's going to be a battle for third between Joseph Qazi, John Whitendorf, as well as Gerald Campbell in the 25. Qazi leaves the door open on the inside. Whitendorf sticks his nose in there, tries to slide up in front, can't do it off of 4.
Yeah, Whitendorf it came in with way too much speed, almost took out Qazi and put him into the wall. Able to hold on, but Hank Steinmiller, he's going to be trying the inside, coming out of 2, side by side for the lead here as they're coming into turn number 3.
Now let's not forget, during that long green flag run, Christopher Morris Jr. worked his way from the back to the front, but in doing so, he did it slowly and methodically, all the time saving his stuff. Now he's got to be at 100% aggressive to try and keep the 63 in his rearview mirror.
The drivers that have put down the fastest laps here today, that's going to be Christopher Morris Jr. as well as Joseph Qazi. Both of them have put down a 24.1, as well as the rest of the field. The best that they put down is a 24.3 or 0.2. So a tenth faster has been the 8 car and the 3 as they're up front in the top 3.
Cooper Johnson, Peyton Hill, they continue to cross each other over for around the 7th position. We're watching the side-by-side here between the 2 drivers that are battling by singular points for that championship. John Whitendorf and Gerald Campbell, their battle right now is for 4th on track.
And Campbell's in a very good spot. He's led a lap, so that means he's got a 5-point bonus point that's going in, which will equal out. And now it's about who can finish ahead of one another going into this race. And It's looking like Gerald Campbell, he might be the faster car, but Weitendorf still not letting go side by side for these cars. And looking at where they're running, I think this is hurting Weitendorf the most due to the fact that he's got to run so much lower than what the 25 car does.
Completely agree with you. I think that the 33 right now is at a disadvantage on the long run because that right front is going to wear down so much more being on the inside line. I think he realizes it as he'll tuck in line behind the 25. Steinmiller, he's back on the bumper of Christopher Morse Jr., looking to take the race lead back.
Steinmiller's got to be thinking, I got to get up front as quick as possible. Qazi's just going to be following suit, trying to keep at the pace of the 63, and he's got a great run into coming through and out of 4 is going to be Joseph Qazi.
And if these drivers up here in the top 3 continue to battle, that's going to bring Gerald Campbell and John Weitendorf up into the same neighborhood, and we're going to have a 5-way battle for the top position. Hank Steinmiller, he was able to hold off Gerald Campbell early on. He was able to pass Gerald Campbell, but this is the first time he's had to deal with the AC Delco Chevrolet.
We haven't really talked about the factors of this track, what's going to be evolving from the start of the night to the end of the night, and that's track temp. It has gone up 1 degree since we started as Hank Steinmiller to the inside, trying to make the pass for the lead, and it doesn't look like he's got it cleared just yet. But also outside temp, 81 degrees, so that means that it's cooling off outside, but with how fast and how long that green flag run was, it's keeping the track extremely warm.
A great point there that the fact these drivers are not being able to really take advantage of the cooler nighttime conditions just based on the fact that we went about 80 laps for that first run before seeing our first caution, as Steinmiller did put up a charge on Christopher Morse Jr., got a little tight there into turn 3 though, and had to give up the spot. Morse continues to lead, and right now for Christopher Morse Jr., he's kind of in the same situation that Steinmiller was before. Run the line that's most comfortable to you, force the drivers behind you to do something different if they're going to take the lead away.
I'm just looking at the tires and where drivers are. Christopher Morse Jr. did pit earlier than the rest of the drivers that he's running around. Pitted about 20 laps ago. Hank Steinmiller with some of the freshest tires, as well as with all the drivers 4th on to 6th place. So there are some drivers on the same strategy as Hank Steinmiller. I got to think Steinmiller has to be in a safe mode. Let's see where Christopher Morse Jr. is going to be burning off his tires so you can really pounce on it with those 3-lap advantage.
Dropping back here around the 13th position is where we find Blaine Atkin and Kyle Johnson. Now, yes, these two drivers, I believe, had to take the wave around to get back on the lead lap. However, they're on just about the same tire sequence as drivers like Christopher Morse Jr., Hank Steinmiller, Joseph Qazi, drivers up inside of the top 5. So I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't made any more forward progress than where they are right now.
Well, Kyle Johnson's also dealing with some damage that this 88 car's been ensuing throughout that green flag run. Remember, he was using his bumper a lot, trying to get cars out of the way, and it really never looked like he was secure and felt safe with how loose his machine was, and I think that's what we're seeing both from the 05 and the 88 machine.
That's a good point. We did have Blaine Atkin up into the wall a couple of times, as well as Joseph Qazi, who was 3rd. All of a sudden, he is skidding back to the latter portion of the top 5. He just lost 3rd to Gerald Campbell. He's now under fire for 4th from John Weitendorf, and Jake Houndshell right there as well.
Yeah, I think right now that he might have pushed it a little bit too hard, or he might be playing the save game of just back off, save these tires until you really need to use it for the final about 20 laps or so.
Took us 80 laps to see the first caution. So if you're a driver up here at the front, what's the sense of urgency? Do you think that this thing goes green to the end? Do you think that there's another caution that's going to line everybody else back up?
I think half the field's thinking, hey, we could go green to the end, so let's save our tires. And I think the other half's thinking, hey, we're past the halfway marker. We're less than we got less than a third to go in this race. We've got to make our charge up to the front now, because this race, it can be done in a blink of an eye.
Right now, John Weitendorf again kind of trapped on the inside line, and you normally wouldn't say that at any other track. Usually the inside line is the faster way around the course, but at a short track like this, everybody wants to migrate if they can up to that outside line, especially in a side-by-side battle, and we saw Weitendorf spend a good deal of time at the inside of Gerald Campbell for what was then the 4th position. He's now back on the inside line against Joseph Qazi, so I'm really worried about this 33 car in the last 15 laps or so if we do run green to the end. And how about that fortune of Cooper Johnson? All of a sudden, what was a 3-car pack, he was able to close in on all 3 of them.
Yeah, Cooper Johnson, one of those drivers that has just been lingering around that 10th to 7th place position all race long. And now with this caution that came out, it's able to allow the 14 machine to reset, try to make his poise forward. But with how strong that we've been seeing the battling going on between the 8 and the 33, Jake Houndshell is he's in the biggest box. He can't go anywhere as he's now going to have to duck it low, crossover move on the 33, and now going to be trying to do a slide job here.
Jake Houndshell got a great run there out of 4 as Whitendorf tucked up behind Qazi. He lost that momentum and forced Houndshell to make the move to the inside. We saw it right there off the nose of the 14. You talked about Beau Brady DNFing from this race. Another driver has joined him. Seth Harrelson has pulled the 07 down pit road, made the hard left-hand turn to the garage area. It looks like right now he is scheduled to finish in 20th position here tonight.
Yeah, and also looking back, looks like AJ DeMarzio
Whoa,
after.
Jake
Oh no!
Off the nose of Whitendorf into Cooper Johnson. Caution's gonna fly.
With the way that they've just been ducking and diving around one another, I'm not surprised by this. And it was just a little bit of a clip on the nose from Whitendorf onto Houndshell, and away they went. It was so slight, but the noses stick out so much further than some of these drivers expect, and we've been seeing that throughout the night, and just Houndshell was not clear to come up as much as he did.
It was one of those situations, to your point, where it kind of looked like a maybe, maybe not of whether contact was going to be made. And unfortunately for Jake Houndshell, not only did he get up into the outside wall, but he then bounced down into the 14 of Cooper Johnson. So damage on both the left and right side of his machine. A driver that was running up in the top 5, well, top 6 really all night long.
Yeah, and right now, Cooper Johnson just hoping that the damage isn't too bad, but it's looking pretty bleak of the damage that he's taken and ensued there on the front right. We're waiting to see if the graphics and visually it's going to get better, but he has lost a little bit of that quarter panel damage-wise, and it's going to take a lot of work for this 14 machine to get back into this race.
We're going to watch the replay again here, and I want you to watch towards the back end of the field. The 85 of James Goshen is going to come into view here, right there. Watch this narrow miss that he makes right there on the inside line as Houndshell comes down right across his nose.
Yeah, those are one of your hold your breath moments. Issues on pit road. Hank Steinmiller did have to back up, losing a little bit of time here on him trying to get back out on track. So what was a driver battling for the lead is now back in 4th place.
Yeah, that now turns the race lead over to Gerald Campbell, who was able to take the lead from Christopher Morse Jr. here on pit lane. Qazi will line up 3rd. Steinmiller drops to 4th. And Cooper Johnson will continue to update the damage he might have sustained on that right front, but I don't think he spent any time repairing damage because he will come out in the 5th position.
Maybe through the fact iRacing said, hey, that's not too bad of a damage, as I thought for sure he was going to have to stay in a little bit longer after the contact that he taken, but looking back at that 14 machine, he looks clean and looks like he's ready to make another charge here up front.
Now we know that everybody, when they came down pit road back during that round of green flag pit stops, they took on a set of tires. Looks like right now, based on the telemetry I'm seeing, they took on the 2nd set.
Yeah, most of the drivers feeling like, hey, this is going to be our final set. Some drivers, though, that are thinking, hey, we might see some more cautions coming out. David White in 11th place out there on 32-lap-old tires is still staying out there on the lead lap and still has a set to work with.
It's one of the beauties about later on in the season, as I touched on. You can go outside of the box in terms of strategy if you're not in the hunt for the championship. And David White got a top 15 last week at USA International, looking to better that here tonight. And another couple of drivers that I'm going to be kind of interested to see here that were mired back in traffic, but now are kind of running up here just inside of the top 10. We've got the 84 of Peyton Hill, the 00 of Jason Houndshell, and the 05 of Blaine Atkin. So have we seen the last of these drivers? A couple of them had some really good pace on the long run, both Hill and Houndshell picking up quite a number of spots there when we had the tail end of that green flag run just before the pit stops.
Yeah, I think Hill is the driver to be watching out for. Atkin, I don't feel comfortable with Atkin. I mean, usually I would say, hey, this 05 machine, always a favorite to win this race, but with how loose he has been and how much he's been just struggling to hold on to this car, I don't feel comfortable calling that Atkin has a top 5 machine to possibly win this race, unless we have a lot of green, white, a lot of cautions that come in and somehow gift positions to the 0-5.
Interesting here. David White looks like he is staying out, but he is going to actually drop to the tail end of the field, which actually is a smart decision. You don't really want to be up there on those 33-lap old tires ahead of drivers on the fresher tires, so you still have your strategy going on, but you're also going to make sure you're going to finish this race in one piece.
Yeah, it's not a bad call at all. Do want to give some thanks to the sponsors that help out the G-Force Grand National Series. Got to give a shout out to the Juice Box Podcast, that whether you're looking for pop culture, boy blogs, or either wacky hypotheticals, the Juice Box Podcast from Wheeling, West Virginia, they've got you covered. You can go find those boys across all social media sites. Just look up at Juice Box Pod for all podcasts to be found there.
I believe David White actually fell to the back because he was the lucky dog under that caution. Shane Lake was also a lap down, and now he is joined by Jake Houndshell, who currently holds the free pass position should we get a caution. Houndshell was not able to beat the pace car off of pit road, so he will start towards the tail end one lap down as Campbell gets us back underway with 40 laps to go at Iowa.
Yeah, and it really looked like that outside line just did not know when to go at all, as Morris Jr. just could not get going. Qazi able to get going, and Hank Steinmiller now to third place.
And we saw a lot of drivers during that long 80-lap green flag run willing to use the bumpers. I think even more so that will be the case here as these laps tick down. You saw John Whitendorf all over the back bumper of Christopher Morris Jr. saying, hey, go, I got to get up there into that 25's rearview mirror.
Caution in the back. It's going to be Randy Kokine spinning around on the front stretch, and it looks like he might have gotten a little bit of help there from Goshen.
Would not be surprised if him getting a little bit of help. A lot of drivers really tightening up off of turn 4 here tonight, and Jake Houndshell looking up to the sky saying thank you, because this will allow him the opportunity to get back onto the lead lap.
I do want to take that back. Kokine actually spun this on himself. He never had anyone else touch him.
Well, I think that this is going to start to set a little bit of a trend, a little bit of a tone here, though, Sam. I mean, we had that long green flag run, but once the caution came out and we had everyone wadded up for restarts, now we're starting to see drivers a little bit more push and shove, a little bit more aggressive. I think in the case of here, what we'll see with Randy Kokine, just asking a little too much of what the race car was willing to do off the corner, that loose sensation we've seen all night long, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this on these upcoming restarts.
Some frustration, maybe, unknowingness of a yellow coming out, but Kyle Johnson just got ran over by AJ DiMarzio.
Yes, he did. Just saw his car up there against the turn 1 wall. We'll actually look at that here. They had just crossed the start-finish line, and Johnson starts to slow. DiMarzio does not. Up into the 88, and now Kyle Johnson is going to be trapped a lap down on pit road again, having to come down pit road for, I think we could safely say, probably needless repairs.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the most frustrating thing. You just got ran over by a driver that's 18 laps down and should not even have been in that scenario to take out a driver that was on the lead lap and was trying to make a redemption type of a move late in this race. And, well, that's frustrating to see.
Well, David White came down pit road. He'll take on his final set of tires after getting the lucky dog under the last caution. Jake Houndshell just went around to get his lap back, so he gets the free pass under this yellow flag, which will have us with 15 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green, and it's like it's going to be somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 33 laps to go, possibly 34 if the lights go out this time.
Another driver that was trying to wait and save until the very last moment to try to use this last set, that's going to be Shane Lake, who is going to be the only driver 1 lap down. So if a caution comes out and he's not involved in it, we'll be getting the lucky dog position, and kind of in the same spot that we're going to be finding White in, with a slight advantage over the drivers in front of him. But is it a big enough advantage here late in this race?
Let's take the opportunity here with 35 laps to go. We'll give you a full field rundown. It's Gerald Campbell, now the race leader. He's not been to victory lane since December 1st of last year. Had 2 wins in the first 5 races, but a long winless streak since then. Joseph Qazi lines up in second. Hank Steinmiller, who started on the pole, has led the most laps, now finds himself back in third. Christopher Morris Jr. in fourth, and John Whitendorf currently holds down the 5th position. Peyton Hill, Blaine Atkin, Anthony Grenary, Cooper Johnson, and Peyton Hamlet. That is your top 10. Jason Houndshell is now up in 11th. James Goshen in 12th. Randy Koking 13th. David White in 14th. And last car now in the lead lap, the recipient of the latest lucky dog is Jake Houndshell in 15th place. Looks like Shane Lake will be 1 lap down in 16th, 2 laps down in 17th, Ernest King. And 18th place right now scored, but that could change by the end of this race, is Kyle Johnson, who has just now taken his car to the garage area. AJ DeMarzo right now in 19th place, 18 laps down. He would pass Kyle Johnson for 18th in 15 laps time.
Yeah, just trying to wait this thing out. Do want to give one more shout out to podcasts all over the place, trying to give a little bit of sponsored help here for the G-Force Grand National Series. They've helped us with the sponsor of the pole position and also the sponsor for the white flag. That's going to be Dirty Racing Podcast. They've been waiting until 2021 to finally release their podcast, which it's going to be releasing January 14th of 2021. That's going to be in a couple of days when we're going to be seeing the first podcast of the Dirty Racing Podcast. Again, sponsors of the pole position and the white flag.
One thing we should point out to everybody here, your top 2 are teammates out of PRM, with Campbell in the 25 and Qazi in the 8. And going inside the mind there of Joseph Qazi, I mean, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. You've had a car that's been up in the top 5, really the top 3, all night long. You haven't led yet. You're trying to get your first win of the season, but you want to be a good teammate and try and help play defense for the 25 to gain the points lead back and open up the gap here with 2 races remaining. So if you're Qazi, what do you do here?
I think it's late in the season. You're trying to help your team get a championship. You play defense. I mean, I think Qazi at this point has to understand that it's more of a team-based thing at this point. Qazi, not really a factor of trying to win this championship. So if you're coming in late in these races as a teammate, your goal is try to be that wall to make sure there's a buffer between the driver of your teammate who's trying to go for a championship and his competitor, which is Whitendorf, back all the way in 6th place.
Saw in the last restart, Christopher Morse Jr. did not get going on that outside line. We'll see if he'll have a better restart this time, and it looks like he might, although there is quite a bit of distance there between himself and Campbell. That might have been by design to help Qazi slot into 2nd.
Yeah, Qazi's now going to be in 2nd place, and it's going to be Steinmiller once again on the inside, trying to push the 3 car as high as he can go. Place.
We've seen Steinmiller aggressive on the bottom. We've seen John Whitendorf aggressive on the bottom. I think we haven't seen anything yet. Those two, now I think it's go time for them to get themselves up to the 25 of Campbell, keep themselves in this championship hunt. But Steinmiller, that inside line, not his friend. It drops him from 3rd back to 5th, now into the clutches of Peyton Hill.
No! It's going to be Peyton Hamlet spinning around, as well as Cooper Johnson, and it's going to be David White.
David White sitting there on the exit of turn 2. There is the 10 of Hamlet and the 14 of Cooper Johnson. That dodge, it's like the damage might be to the right front of his machine. Caution going to fly here for the 4th time tonight. A lot of damage on the back end of the Devon's Deal Chevrolet.
Yeah, that's just a lot of hard racing coming into that corner, and drivers they're going to be trying to do the best that they can there.
It's like the 83 might have gotten loose in the center of 1 and 2. And I almost wonder if maybe running up that high might have possibly gotten into the marbles there. Oh, actually, that was a wreck that happened after the Cooper Johnson spin off of 2.
Yeah, I think just running a little bit too high, maybe put a little bit too much wheel into it. And it looked like White just got loose halfway through the corner and was trying to save it all the way through and just couldn't, made contact with the 5. And then, yeah, you move up to Cooper Johnson in that incident. I saw the 10 going around. Oh, yeah, he was going around by way before, and then Johnson just finished off that spin.
That's a tough situation if you're Cooper Johnson, because you know that car is going to spin ahead of you. And usually the case at a track like this, when you turn that car hard left to try and avoid, your car's going to snap around on you. So it's kind of follow it through and hope that maybe the car that's spinning out in front of you is going to spin either up or down out of your path.
Yeah, I mean, the driver's got to be trying to figure out where they're going to be placing themselves. But, I mean, when it's that close, I mean, there's not really even enough reaction time to put the brakes on to try to slow up from that contact. So, it's just one of those racing incidences where Even if a car spins and you see it happening in front of you, you kind of just have to hope for the best and that you don't take as much damage as you're about to take.
This caution is going to put Shane Lake back on the lead lap now. So 16 drivers looks like will be on the lead lap when we go back green. Gerald Campbell, the race leader. We're going to get this restart somewhere in the vicinity of 25 laps to go. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. Wait until the lights go out atop the pace car to rack them back up, because this may be just the start of a few restarts that we'll be dealing with here in the closing stages of tonight's race at Iowa Speedway. You won't miss a thing. We're going to go FRN side by side.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom t-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized, I mean, we'll do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the, top quality shirts, inks and everything, hoodies, hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. Just you can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold, to where you can receive them and they're already labeled and tagged and bagged, ready to give out to your customer and stuff. So you can just call us and just tell us, hey, this is what we're looking at doing, and if we're going to put the car on there, it is 125 quantity minimum. If it's
We welcome you back here to Iowa Speedway, race 10 of the season for the G-Force Grand National Series, the Smart Way Remodeling 150. We are about to the closing stages of this race. It will be 26 laps to go when we go back green. Gerald Campbell, your race leader. Joseph Qazi in second. Third will be Christopher Morse Jr., John Whitendorf in fourth, and pole sitter Hank Steinmiller right now completes the top 5. We mentioned that Gerald Campbell's a 2-time winner this season, winning 2 of the first 5 races, but he's never won at a short track, Sam. Only wins have been at the mile-and-a-half tracks.
Yeah, it was looking extremely dominant to win at every single mile-and-a-half course, but wasn't able to do so, but still hoping for a short track win, or at least keep the consistency. As green flag back out into the air, Gerald Campbell hoping that his teammate could block, and it's going to be Peyton Hill straight to the outside, trying to get by Whitendorf.
Not really surprised to see that 84 traverse to the top side. That's where he's kind of been running most of this race, as the battle for third place really close off of turn 2. Whitendorf almost into the right rear quarter panel of Christopher Morse Jr.
Well, the thing is the fact that the 33 of Whitendorf has just not been giving any space to Christopher Morse Jr. They've been just riding and tailgating off one another, and it continues on. Christopher Morse Jr. to the inside, trying to get by Qazi.
Morse Jr. now trying to move to the second spot to try and figure out who's going to get up there to Campbell. Might have been some contact between the two off the second corner.
Randy Koking also all the way back in 8th place, gets extremely loose, able to save it, but 3-wide action back for 10th place as they're still racing hard for the lead.
Christopher Morse Jr., the slide job completed. He cleared the 8 off of turn 4. Here comes Whitendorf now looking for the third position.
The biggest issue right now for Peyton Hill is that he wants to run that outside group, but there's a car that's going to be there stuck and blocking him. That's the 8 of Qazi. Whitendorf being pinched extremely low and continues to be pinched as Qazi has to drift up just a little bit here through 3 and 4.
If you look really carefully down near the lower right of that number 8 on the left side of Joseph Qazi's machine. You can see there is damage. That is from some door banging that's taken place. That was Morse moving him up the track for second. Whitendorf door banged him to try and move him up the track for third. So these drivers now being willing to use their race cars to get positions.
And Whitendorf knows he has to stay close within a position of that 25 machine to keep the points as close as they are right now, because if Whitendorf falls back 1-2 positions from Gerald Campbell, this lead that he once had of 5 points, he could be losing and be down about 10 points going into next week.
Boy, I don't know if he got loose or if he had to check up with the 8 in front of him, but Whitendorf lost a lot of momentum there through 1 and 2, and now he's not only lost touch with Joseph Qazi, Peyton Hill's going to swing around the outside for the 4th position.
And Hank Steinmiller, who has just been absolutely brutalizing those tires here for the first couple of laps of the stint, which was about 20 laps ago, he is now starting to fall back and just try to gain and hope that he's in the top 5 by the end of this race. But it is looking rough. But cars that are still in the top 10 that can still have a possible chance to try to run their way up front, or at least try to go for a top 5 finish. Anthony Grenary, Blaine Atkin, Jason Houndshell. Great runs for those drivers.
Absolutely tremendous runs, and that's why at these short tracks you just got to stick it out. You may not qualify the best, you may not be running up at the front in the beginning stages of the race, but as long as you keep yourself on the lead lap, you've got a shot of being able to get a decent finish, which we're seeing here with some of these guys in the latter half of the top 10. And I gotta wonder about that 63 of Hank Steinmiller. You talked about the tires. I'm almost wondering if it's the track position affecting him as well. He ran most of the first half of this race either as the race leader or in the second position. Now being mired back in traffic, it might really be affecting how he's able to attack these corners.
Yeah, I mean, he was looking like he was good and set to be staying around 3rd place, but that last caution that came out, it shuffled him back into around 5th place position, and just he's not been able to make any charge forward. But within 2 tenths, it's going to be Gerald Campbell and Christopher Morse Jr. And Morse Jr., he looks quick, was one of the fastest cars on the longest stint, one of our extremely long green flag run we had at the start of the race. This 3 machine, the longer the race went on, the faster he was.
And I would keep a very close eye on 3rd and 4th place, Joseph Qazi and Peyton Hill also, because back when Campbell and Steinmiller at the time were battling for the race lead, then Joseph Qazi was able to close up what was over a second gap to 6 tenths. I think if these two race against each other again, Qazi and Peyton Hill may use that to their advantage to try and put their names into the hat for the strip to victory lane.
Whitendorf's going to be dropping now back and still holding on to 5th place, but it's going to be Steinmiller. Someone's going to have to use that nose to try to get someone else loose for the drivers that are back around 3rd on back if they want to start moving forward. But for the lead, Christopher Morse Jr., there's a chance that we could be seeing him think about using that chrome nose, trying to get that 25 machine loose out of the way as we're getting closer and closer. Might make that move with 5 laps to go.
But the thing of it is, we've seen a couple of wrecks here tonight with drivers misjudging where their nose was, trying to tuck in line behind a driver that was in front of them. The latest one, of course, that spin for Houndshell, Jake Houndshell, off of turn 2. So if you're having that much of a question mark of your clearance with your nose, how are you able to make sure that the hit you're going to give to that driver is going to be square?
I mean, you kind of just have to send it and hope for the best. Now these drivers, they just continue to battle back and forth.
Back here, Sam. Cooper Johnson, he spun on the back straightaway.
Coming out at 2 is when the 14, it looks like the 14 and the 10 might have made contact. Yeah, the 10 got loose out of the corner, knocking the 14 machine onto the inside wall. And now he's going to get straight and stay green.
No caution with less than 15 to go. Christopher Morse Jr. ran a little wide that time off of turn 2, trying to use up every bit of racetrack he can in the attempt to get by Gerald Campbell for the race lead and what would be his first win of the season. Behind them, great battling here. Peyton Hill, that outside line abandoned him. He's fallen back to 7th, losing a spot to Anthony Grenary, who's on the move.
Yeah, looking at the times that are being placed right now of all the drivers right now, Hank Steinmiller, one of the fastest drivers, but they're still running about 1/10 to 2/10 slower than what our front 2 are running. Really, right now, Gerald Campbell, as well as Christopher Morse Jr., class acts of the race, and they're still pulling away as we're getting closer and closer to 10 laps to go.
Last time by, Christopher Morse Jr. was a little bit quicker. I think he was about 7/100ths if my calculations are correct. I don't know if draft played into that or if that was just the raw speed out of the 3, but it looks like visibly he's able to close up off the corners.
Yeah, off the corner, but it's on entry where we're seeing Campbell really be able to gain and stretch that lead. But really, like you said, it's off the corner. That momentum of trying to just get into the throttle, that's where the 3 is winning out. And now less than a 10. He can use the nose here if he wanted to, but decides otherwise.
Now here's the issue for Christopher Morse Jr. He's been able to work his way from the back to the front. This driver started dead last, people, 21st place. He's now up here with a shot of going last to first at Iowa, but he's not really been in the situation yet to use that inside line in an attempt to pass for the lead. He's either been the leader at the time, or he's been back outside of the top 10, top 15, working his way up to the front. So we're going to have to see if he's done enough experimenting with that inside line to know what grip awaits him if he tries this pass for the race lead, because we know Campbell's not going to give up the top.
Whitendorf almost made the pass for 3rd place, got extremely loose out of 4, had to drop all the way back to 4th place once again, almost losing that position to Hank Steinmiller, and Steinmiller is understanding, hey, he's need to pass at least one of the front 2 if he wants to try to close in this gap.
We've seen it all night long. You have a mistake trying to pass a driver, and if there's someone on your back bumper, almost invariably you're going to lose that position as well. Looks like Steinmiller may have cut Whitendorf a little bit of slack there, as now Whitendorf back on the attack of Joseph Qazi for 3rd place. The battle for the lead, though, continues to be just a 1/10 of a second, and now Morse makes the move to 3, trying to use the lap car of David White as a pick.
There was communication between our leader and the lap car to figure out where they wanted to place each other, and I think that communication threw in Christopher Morse Jr.'s mind of, I can put my car in the middle and try to make a pass, but contact between our front 2.
There was contact indeed, moving Gerald Campbell up the track. Christopher Morse Jr. gonna go to the point, and from what I've seen here tonight, if you're gonna make a pass on the inside line, you're gonna have to use the right side of your machine to move that driver out of the way. And Christopher Morse Jr., I don't think that was a dirty move at all. That's what you gotta do here tonight if the win's on the line.
It's short track racing, it's Rubbins racing, but right now he's got to be slightly nervous. If Campbell can get close enough, you know Campbell's going to retaliate in some type of fashion to get that position back.
But I'm watching Gerald Campbell. They're off turn 2. I'm seeing the telltale signs we saw late in the first run. Jerking the wheel hard to the left to avoid hitting the outside wall. However, gets a nice run off of turn 4. He's closing back in.
Yeah, I mean, Campbell's going to be having to deal with that, but so is Christopher Morse Jr. Both these drivers have been running so much faster than the rest of the field that they were pulling away with over a 1.5-second lead over the rest of the field. These last couple of laps, their lap times are starting to merge. They're starting to plateau. At some point, our front 2, with how hard they've been pushing, they could be losing time to our back half of the field.
During the first round of pit stops, Christopher Morse Jr. was at a 2-lap disadvantage to Gerald Campbell on tires, but then they all came to pit road under a yellow flag, and both the 3 and the 25 are on equal setting. We've also got a wad of cars back here still, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, that may be settling out who's going to get the final podium spot, as Hank Steinmiller was able to pass John Whitendorf about a lap ago.
Campbell got a great entry into turn number 3. It was the exit off, though, that he really is losing that time, and it's what we were talking about. A little bit too much wheel, trying to make sure he doesn't hit the wall, but Campbell right now, he's just searching for any type of speed at this point, going a little bit further down low, a little bit higher to try to find some more arc speed, but it's just not working. He's staying within 2/10, now back to 3/10, but he really needs to start making a charge forward as we're coming to 2 laps to go.
This is going to be the longest 2 laps for Christopher Morse Jr. this season. He has not been to victory lane yet. He was the champion of the 87 series, the predecessor to the Grand National Series. As Campbell loose off of turn 2 again, might be trying to wheel that car for all it's worth, and that may have just cost him right there this victory, as Christopher Morse Jr., 7/8 of a mile await him and a trip to victory lane.
Yeah, it's the start of the Dirty Racing Podcast. White flag. Christopher Morse Jr. going for his first win of the season. This 3 machine, he just has to hit his marks. Being told by his spotter he has to stay smooth as the car behind him struggling.
Off through turn 3, very smooth on that outer groove, and off of 4. The last of first challenge at Iowa. Christopher Morse Jr. is going to win the Smartway Remodeling 150.
And also the battling for 3rd place was so hectic. Steinmiller full scented, trying to get a 3rd place finish. Went a little bit too far. Qazi had to deke him out. Got it up to 3rd place. A great run and battle there for the 3rd place finishers.
Christopher Morse Jr. back at Bristol ended up stepping out of the car and did off-track admin duties. That subsequently took him out of the running for the championship, but you kind of had the feeling before season's end we were going to see him find victory lane, and here tonight, didn't even lay down a qualifying lap. That's why he had to start at the back. Slowly, methodically worked his way from 21st to the win in 150 laps at Iowa.
Yeah, it was an incredible run, and you knew once he was on equal footing up front, this three machine had a chance. Gerald Campbell and Joseph Qazi, his teammates, they tried their darndest to try to hold off the rest of the field, but it was a little bit of a lap car mix-up that caused the three machine to make the aggressive move to get by the 25 and getting this win.
Turning it down here at Iowa, Christopher Morse Jr. in that very familiar Dale Earnhardt Jr. AC Delco scheme gets his first win of the season. And if we're looking in terms of point standings, as we'll take a look at the finishing results, Gerald Campbell now back on top with a second place finish to John Whitendorf's fifth.
Yeah, John Whitendorf going to be back in fifth place, which points-wise, this is now going to be putting Campbell, I believe, this is going to be putting him almost 21 points, 23 points ahead of Whitendorf going into next week at Dover.
And if you look here at some of these other drivers like Hank Steinmiller and Jake Houndshell, who we, coming into this race, said still had a shot. Fourth for Steinmiller, eighth for Houndshell, but with the fact that both Campbell and Whitendorf finished up inside of the top five, the chances of being in the hunt for that championship looking bleaker, but do they still have a shot, do you think?
I think that it might be out of reach at this point. If we are seeing Campbell show up and still be finishing in the top five, I think that for all the drivers that are going to be 100 points on back, it's almost looking impossible to try to run them down. Steinmiller did his darndest trying to just stay close enough, but I think it just might have been a little bit too far for now. All these drivers third on back in points.
Let's take a look at the rest of the finishing results as we're now going to talk with some of our top three finishers. And let's kick things off with, I believe it's his best finish of the season, third place finishing, Joseph Qazi. Joseph, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I do.
Man, great run for you here tonight. Top three pretty much all night long. Right there in the conversation on that final restart to try and take this thing, but trapped there on the inside line. But I mean, obviously a great performance for you here tonight. What little more do you think you needed out of your race car to be able to get up there with those two and battle for this win?
Maybe a longer run. I wasn't good on the beginning, like a shorter type run, maybe all the way at the end of a longer run. I was maybe a little bit better. Just maybe a little bit better than them, maybe. But other than that, I was a third place car. I knew I could keep a hold of third.
Yeah, I mean, Joseph, we saw a lot of beating and banging here at Iowa Speedway, and wasn't sure. I mean, from your point of view, you were trying your best to hold off most of the field so they couldn't catch up to your teammate, it looked like. But from your point of view, how was the bumping and racing with everyone else around you?
It was fun. that was fun.
Well, Joseph, congratulations on a great performance here tonight. Your best finish of the season. Of course, we've got a couple more short tracks coming out to finish out this series. Dover next week, North Wilkesboro the following week. So looking forward to seeing what you can do there. We're going to now turn the microphone over to you for some shout-outs.
All right. I'd like to thank my team, PRC Esports. And shout out to Gerald. Good job on my teammate. He got second. He's probably going to win the championship. That's about it.
Well, that's Joseph Qazi, third place here tonight at Iowa Speedway. Congrats on a great run there, Joseph.
Appreciate it.
And the driver he just alluded to, Gerald Campbell. Let's talk to him after his second place run here tonight. Hey, Gerald, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh, man, we were kind of wondering there in the closing stages. We knew that with the type of racing we saw all night long, drivers up at the front were going to have to use their race cars as weapons to move others out of the way. We saw some door banging between yourself and the three of Christopher Morse Jr., and we knew that all's fair on the racetrack. He gave you a shove. You were going to be able to give him a shove if you got up to him, but what little more did you need to keep pace with him so the two of you would be nose to tail going into those final couple of corners?
I needed to stop overdriving it. Once he got around me, I was so desperate to try to get my shove back. But I knew it was coming. And there's no way you could have made that bottom work. I mean, you could get underneath someone, yeah, but that bottom was just way too hard to maneuver. And I gave him the bottom, and man, I at least I can say is he did it in a respectful way where I was still able to finish second. So I think he knew if I was able to get back up there, I would have probably had the same maneuver. But it stinks. I know it was a good points day, and I've finally stopped the bleeding of losing points. Just been having bad luck. So to come here and to at least get a good run in, get some laps led, to not have a wrecked race car at the end of this, I'll take that, even though I'm still going to be very sad that I lost.
Yeah, I mean, Gerald, you talked about how giving up the inside. Also, you were coming up to lap traffic. I heard over the radio that there was communication between you. Did you think that was something that Chris understood of, hey, this is an opportunity for me to just send it and make this pass at this point?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's how I got around Hank earlier on the race, is I just timed it with a lap car. I mean, that was the only way that you could really be able to, try to make a maneuver somewhat have a successful chance, is if you're, using that lap car as some kind of, I wouldn't say a roadblock, because the lap car was not a roadblock. He was plenty giving us room. He did exactly what he needed to. So not the lap car fault at all. But you with a track like this where it's just such a one groove kind of situation, you got to try to use that as in your strategy. He just played it right and deserves the win for that, for sure.
So Gerald, I got to ask you real quickly here. I mean, we know that this home stretch here for this schedule is all short tracks. We've just completed our second one. We got 2 more still to come at Dover and North Wilkesboro. It's the type of a racetrack where there's no escaping from battling with somebody, whether it be a driver that you're battling for position, a lap car that you're trying to get around. And, we saw last week, you and the 33, always in the same vicinity with each other. Here tonight, we saw the two of you side by side for, I think it was 4 or 5 laps straight. How difficult is it down this home stretch when you're at a short track, close quarter racing like that, to not only keep in mind you're trying to get up there and win this race, but at the same time, you're trying to manage points for the championship between the two of you?
It comes down 50% luck and 50% strategy. And, you just got to, I wouldn't say Dover's a short track. Talk about two different tracks for me. Dover, I absolutely do not like, and North Wilkesboro, which I consider to be one of my best racetracks that iRacing has seemed to put out there for me. So luckily, North Wilkesboro is the final race, so I might be able to see what we can do. Me and John, in the 33, we've all year long been racing side by side, but we have a lot of respect for each other. You'll never see one of us intentionally try to put the other one in a bad position to try to get any kind of extra points on each other. But it's going to be a knockout. Hank's up there too. Hank had a good run today. I knew he was battling me hard. He needs these points, so it was my job to try to give him as little as possible for the final stretch and try to just make it a 2-man show.
Well, Gerald, we know you wanted to win here tonight, but who knows? The second place might be the difference between whether you're winning the championship in 2 weeks' time or not. We'll look forward to seeing that. Only time will tell. We're now going to hand the microphone over to you for thank yous and shout-outs.
I'll talk about ending it on a downer. Thanks. Yeah, now I'm really going to be back on how I lost the lead. Jeez, I was happy with a second, but now you're making me question it all. No, I like to thank you guys. You guys do great broadcast. Love to rewatch it. Love the league. Chris Morris runs the league. You can't really push too much on him. No, but Chris is he's a good driver out there. A lot of good drivers up here. You get to see a lot of the same ones time after time, and the core group here is a lot of fun to race with. Thanks PRC Esports, the team, me and Qazi, teammates, and he got a 3rd place. He did a heck of a job tonight. Other than that, just going to go into Dover, see if I could put more of a show on for you guys. I always say it, I know I'm going for a championship, but man, I really want these wins more than anything. This one's going to hurt, but I'll just have to take that frustration out on the next 2 tracks hopefully, may find some miraculous speed at Dover that I've never had before, and then take it to North Wilkesboro, which I just need to do what I always do there, which is just run it how I need to run it. So yeah, other than that, thank you guys. I look forward to it.
Well, maybe you can make a deal with Miles the Monster next week. That's Gerald Campbell, finished the second place here tonight at Iowa. Congrats on a great run, though, there, Gerald, and we look forward to seeing what you do here down the completion of the home stretch.
Have a great night, guys.
Down to victory lane we go. Let's get a word with tonight's race winner from Iowa, Christopher Morse Jr. Hey, Chris, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
I got you.
Man, never laid down a lap time in qualifying, started at the very rear of the field. Next thing we know, 150 laps later, you're crossing the line for the checkered flag. Quite an adventure for you here tonight. Describe it to us.
It was a lot of fun, man. I've been trying to start at the rear just because I'm not running for the championship. And truth be told, I don't seem to start on the front row very often. So I figured start in the back rather than the middle of the field. And that long green flag run, 80-something laps, gave me enough time to work my way up there and pit. And once I had fresh tires and I was up there, it was game on.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, we got to see you really charge your way through the field, and you were kind of allowing Kyle Johnson to just be that battering ram for you to just follow suit. How was it trying to take that knowledge of working in dirty air to then battling and being up front?
Yeah, I've raced these cars here a lot, especially in official series. It's one of my favorite tracks to run, so I kind of knew what to expect already. Kyle, it's funny with Kyle. I mean, if you're behind him, you know you don't have to really make any moves. You can follow him. He's gonna make a lane. So I didn't have to work that hard. By the time I got up to the front, I think my tires were worn out pretty evenly with everybody else. So I don't know. It was a lot of fun, though. I'll tell you that much.
I got to ask you here, Chris, because we saw you slowly, methodically work your way up there to the front when you started at the back. But then when you were up at the front, obviously at that point, you really couldn't save your tires. You had to go all out. And when you were second place there battling with Gerald, was there anything that you were able to learn from that run of working your way through traffic that set up that pass for the win?
No, not really. I think earlier on, like if we would have had a restart with 10 or 15 to go rather than 30 to go or whatever it was, I probably could have maybe got the car to stick down there. Once you've got 25, 30 laps on the tires, really the only way the bottom lane works is if there's somebody slower ahead of the guy you're trying to pass on the high side. So basically when I saw the lap car on the bottom, I just tried to dive it 3 wide, figured it would take Gerald by surprise, and then we went down into turn 1, and I was carrying a little bit too much speed. And at that point, you know, it's short track racing, and I haven't talked to you guys in Charlotte. You know what I mean? So I wanted to get a win.
Well, you came into this series the defending champion of the 87 series. We knew it was just going to be a matter of time before we talked to you in victory lane. Congratulations on your win here tonight at Iowa. We're now going to let you do some sponsors, shout-outs, and thank yous.
Yeah, I want to thank PRM, my team, Gerald, my teammate, Joseph, my other teammate. Congratulations on their top 3 finishes. Gerald's in a pretty good position to go win the championship. I want to thank the Juicebox Pod for sponsoring the series, Dirty Racing Podcast for sponsoring the pole award and the white flag lap. And thanks for everybody watching. I hope I put on a good show. I tried to on that last restart there with the slide job and everything. I was trying to give you guys something to watch.
Well, Christopher Morse Jr. sounds exhausted. He should be. He passed a lot of cars here tonight from the back to the front to win the Smart Way Remodeling 150. Congratulations on your win there, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
And so as this one comes to a close, we look ahead to next week, Sam. The points lead has shuffled again. Campbell now up over John Whitendorf. They've been flip-flopping for the last 3 weeks or so. But next week, we go to a track, Dover Downs, a track that Gerald Campbell says he's not all that happy with. It doesn't really seem to always work out into his favor. So do we see the points lead continue to flip-flop heading towards that season finale?
It's extremely possible. I mean, going into Dover, we'll wait and see. But unofficially, I think the difference is going to be about 16 points between our front 2 of Campbell having the points lead going into Dover and Whitendorf following suit. Hank Steinmiller, I think this is a little bit too far out of reach for himself. And also Jake Houndshell as well, a little bit too far for those drivers now. I think it's just a 2-horse battle to see who's going to be getting the championship here for the G-Force Grand National Series, and it's going to be a crazy one to see with both Dover and North Wilkesboro to be seen.
It's a mile-long racetrack covered in concrete, so we know it's going to be slick. We know that tires are going to be of optimal value when we get there, and it's nicknamed the Monster Mile for a reason. So definitely could be a pretty good predecessor into determining what the championship battle is going to look like in 2 weeks' time when we get to the season finale at North Wilkesboro. But Christopher Morris Jr. is your winner here tonight at Iowa Speedway. Congratulations once again to him. And Sam, appreciate you joining me here tonight for some good old short track racing.
Always a pleasure there, Seth, to be up in the booth with you.
Hope everybody enjoyed our coverage here tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. Be here again next Tuesday night. Green flag to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Dover Downs 150. You've been watching coverage here tonight for the Smart Way Remodeling 150 at Iowa Speedway. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.